What will LSU's projected record be in 2025? Well, let's look first back at some of the projections, at least from the last 4 years that we've done. This is with our projection formula. This is not from our actual predictions, but you can see the projection in 2021, 8-4. They went 6-6 in 2022, projected to go 7-5. They went 9-3. 2023, 10-2. Was the projection. They went 9-3, and then last season projected to go 9-3. They went 8-4. So out of the past 4 seasons, our projection has actually overrated LSU 3 out of the 4 seasons. So 7-5 to 9-3 in 2022. That's the only year where LSU outperformed the projections. The last 2 years, they finished 1 game under our projection. So that's something to look at. But let's get to this, the new projection for 2025. And here is the schedule, and this is the scale that we use. So again, this is all based off of our tier rankings. And I do have LSU into tier 2. I'm projecting them. So they were like a tier 3 team last year, projecting them to jump into tier 2 with all the pieces they have coming back, the talent they have on the roster. So again, they did jump up a tier. So that means if they play another tier 2 team, then that's going to be a 50-50 game. It'll be in the white. If they play a tier 3 team, it'll be a 61 to 70% game. It'll be in the purple. But if they play a tier 3 team on the road like Oklahoma, then that changes it to a 50-50 game. So that's the way the formula works. And again, this is not based off of point spreads or trying to project point spreads, but one way to look at it, usually the games in the white are games where you would expect the spreads to be 3, 4, 5 points, 61 to 70, more like a touchdown spread, 71 to 80, double-digit spread, and then, over 80, we're talking like 20-plus point spreads, something like that. So you got some of those. You got a few easy wins: Louisiana Tech, Southeastern Louisiana, and Western Kentucky. And all these games are not the same. Southeastern Louisiana is like 99.9%. Louisiana Tech's probably, 96%. Western Kentucky maybe closer to 90%, but still, they're all above 80, and those are the games that we consider to be pretty easy wins, and those games are counted as wins in the formula. So 3 wins for LSU that you can pretty much guarantee. And then you've got Arkansas. They're actually in the blue. They are a tier 4 team, and the game's at home. So that's why this is in that 71 to 80% range. That, again, if you go by the point spread, that would mean double-digit spread. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know exactly how good Arkansas is going to be. You look at the game from last year, and at LSU, you would think, yeah, LSU probably will be a double-digit favorite. But again, it's not based on that. It's just based off of our tier rankings, and that's where they fall in the formula. So 71 to 80% there against Arkansas. Another tier 4 team that they play is Vanderbilt, but that game is on the road. That's why it drops into the purple. So 61 to 70% chance that they win that game. Yeah, I could see that. I could see LSU as an 8 or 9 point favorite in this game. So I think that does work out pretty well in terms of matching up with the point spreads. So you got 4 games where LSU is going to be, or excuse me, 5 games where they're going to be a pretty clear favorite. Again, not necessarily huge favorites, but pretty clear favorites in these 5 games. And then you've got 7 more games. And these other 7 games, there's really not a game where LSU, I think, is going to be a big underdog, but they will be an underdog in some of them. I think they'll be an underdog against Clemson, potentially Ole Miss, Alabama on the road. Those 3 for sure. I think they're probably favored against Florida, South Carolina, Texas A&M at home, and maybe favored against Oklahoma. So, yeah. Those are all, though, games that are 50-50 games. And the reason why, well, Clemson, they're in tier 2. Florida in tier 2. Ole Miss in tier 2. South Carolina, Texas A&M. All of these teams are in tier 2 except for Oklahoma. They're tier 3, but that game's on the road. So you can see a lot of games that could go either way for LSU. So their season could really go one way or the other in a pretty extremely. I mean, they could possibly lose all these games. I mean, they could go 5-7 or 6-6. It's not that crazy to think that could happen, but they could also get really hot and they could win pretty much all these games. They could get to 10-2 or 11-1 and make the college football playoffs. So LSU is going to be a team that is very tough to predict in terms of their final record. But if we're going by the odds and they just kind of split all these games, that's really what we do to get the projection. So if they split all these games, obviously that's 3.5 losses. And then there's a chance that they lose to Vanderbilt or Arkansas, and it comes out to 8-4. So that's the projection for LSU. I think that's a pretty fair projection, same record as last year. If they take care of business in these games where they're favored, I think 9-3 is definitely very possible. If they really improve from where they were last year, perhaps they can get to 10-2. I look at them possibly going like 9-3 though, and maybe only having 2 conference losses. Let's say that one of those losses comes to Clemson, and they could maybe sneak into the SEC championship. So I think that's a possibility as well. But when you look at these 7 games, again, 4 of them on the road, that's going to be really tough. And so yeah, I do think 8-4 is a pretty fair projection for LSU in 2025.